back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
Are you ready?
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Are you ready? Are you ready for
Place for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey, man, this time we'll do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosansky. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, it's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everything's going well for you here on this Tuesday, the 11th day of April. A rare Tuesday for this podcast, but hopefully going to bring the same energy that I try to bring each and every single week. Hope you all had a great holiday weekend. Hope you're all off to a great start to your week as, hey, we're finally there. It's finally time for the NBA postseason. It's finally time for what we've waited for all year long, with it getting started tonight with the play-in games, the 7-8 matchups tonight, with the 9 versus 10 matchups going on tomorrow. And as you guys know by now, we've done this for a couple of years. The rules with the play-in are pretty simple. 7 plays 8. Winner moves on to be the 7th seed and play the Boston Celtics and the Memphis Grizzlies, respectively, in their conferences. The losers of tonight's games get a second chance on Friday night when they will play the winner from their respective conference of the 9-10 matchup, and the winner of that game will be the 8th seed and move on to play the Denver Nuggets or the Milwaukee Bucks, depending on the conference that they're in. And I've always really liked this. I've always thought that this was a great idea by the league. A, get more teams involved in the mix of things. B, we're not waiting a week for playoff games to get started. We're getting, teams fighting for their lives, fighting for their seasons tonight, because you don't want to lose. You don't want to be, if you're the 7-8 matchup, you don't want to be in a do or die scenario on Friday night, especially if you're the Los Angeles Lakers. When you consider there's been a lot of hype, been a lot of talk about the Lakers coming into this postseason with how they've finished the year. Even when LeBron was out injured, they went on this run since the trade deadline, essentially taking their entire roster and breaking it down, starting over. Replaced Russell Westbrook with D'Angelo Russell, who was a much better fit for this team. Anthony Davis suddenly remembered that he's one of the 10 best players in this sport and has played as such for the better part of the last 2 months. Even when LeBron was out with his injury, you still got this kid out of nowhere, this undrafted player in Austin Reeves, to just come in and be a third guy for this team. In fact, they're 8-2 in the last 10 games once Darvin Ham put him in the starting lineup. And if you're the Lakers, you want to get it done tonight because of the injury history recently with both LeBron and AD. You want them to have those 5 days off before playing the young, fresh legs of the Memphis Grizzlies, rather than going into a situation where, yeah, they would be at home still on Friday night if they were to ever lose tonight. But they have 2 days off between now and a prospective game against the winner of the 9-10 matchup. Then you would have 1 day off before going into the altitude of Denver. And listen, as good as Jokic is, Denver really has not proven anything yet. Even with all these MVP awards that Jokic has won, he still has to get it done in the postseason. Something that LeBron has done multiple times. Something that Anthony Davis, albeit in the bubble, has done. The Lakers have more playoff experience. But with the age of LeBron, with the health concerns of both of their best players, you want that extra time to fully prepare for a postseason series. I mean, you would be going up against teams that don't have the level of playoff experience or playoff success as yourself, but you would rather these 4 or 5 days off rather than 1 day off before going into Denver. They have a great shot at getting it done tonight when you consider all of the nonsense that has gone on with the Minnesota Timberwolves in the last 48 hours. A Timberwolves team that just barely hung on to a postseason spot. A Timberwolves team that now, albeit Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns are playing at an elite level. You have this nonsense now going on with Rudy Gobert and with what happened with the injury to Jaden McDaniels, which that to me was the dumbest thing that we saw on Sunday for the Timberwolves. Time and time again in all of these sports, I get you're annoyed. I get you're mad at a call that is made. But why the hell are you punching the wall? Last time I checked, walls are undefeated. More times than not, when we see this happen with a basketball player or a baseball pitcher, as we've seen plenty of times, you're going to end up breaking your hand. And now this guy is out for the postseason, and it comes at a time where they go into tonight without Rudy Gobert. And I know that they have played better without Gobert, but he has had great success against the Lakers this season. He's averaged 19 and 15 in 3 games against the Lakers. But again, you had him lose his cool just because he didn't like something that Kyle Anderson said. Just because Kyle Anderson used the B word to try and motivate him on the bench on Sunday, he felt like it was the best idea to take a swing at his teammate. And Timberwolves management, the coaching staff, they were not going to put up with that nonsense. They were not going to put up with this potential distraction and suspended the guy. You could argue all day whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision on the timing of this. But Rudy Gobert has to be smarter than this. This entire Timberwolves team has to be smarter than this. Why is it that your 2 stars, who are amongst the youngest guys on your team, can be mature here, but it's veteran players that are doing this nonsense, that are creating this kind of stupidity? I mean, Rudy Gobert has been in this league long enough, has had individual success, enough individual success, that he should realize that now's the time to put the team in front of his own ego. And he's always been kind of accused of being a soft player, but now's the time that he's going to toughen up. Now's the time that he's going to act like somewhat of a badass. And how much of a badass did he look there? After he throws the punch at Anderson, it took one slight shove from a teammate in his right shoulder for him to be backing up, from taking about 10 steps back, really showing you what he's all about. But the Lakers, to me, should have no trouble getting by this team tonight. I want to show all the respect in the world to Anthony Edwards, to Cat. But the Lakers are at home. They've got all of their guys healthy, got all of their guys not suspended. They should be able to get the job done tonight and send the Timberwolves into a situation where they're playing do or die against either the Pelicans or the Thunder, a game I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night that should be very exciting when you consider, yes, the Pelicans are 3-1 against OKC this season. But you have to remember, the Pelicans have done a lot of what they've done in the recent months without Zion Williamson. I mean, Zion Williamson is a myth. He's a rumor. He's played 90 games in his career. That is 7 more games than Mikal Bridges played this season. And that's over the course of a 4-year span. Until this guy shows any consistent track record of health, I can't believe in him. I can't talk about him as a big-time star. And the Pelicans are going to have to figure out a way tonight to slow down Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, because he has been a monster scorer for the Thunder this year, was 4th in points per game. And even though I wouldn't expect either one of these teams, if they somehow snuck into the 8th seed, to do anything to really pose a threat to the Denver Nuggets, it's basketball, it's sports. You can never, I say it all the time, you can never measure the human heart. You can never measure someone's desire, someone's intensity when it comes to the will to win, when it comes to mano a mano, me wanting to prove I'm better than you. So these games should be a lot of fun over the next 2 nights. And tonight, besides just Lakers versus Timberwolves, you've got the Heat versus the Hawks and all the storylines surrounding that, especially if the Hawks go down tonight. Is this a team that's going to be in the lottery starting next year? Because you've seen the rumors over the last couple of days about the fact that the front office is telling people that nobody is off limits as far as trades are concerned, even Trae Young. And we've seen some of his immaturity and lack of growth as a player rear its ugly head as of recently. And you wish you had a veteran there that could kind of show him the way, that would tell him to grow the hell up. But some guys don't learn, some guys don't get it until it's too late. The loser of that game will move on to Friday night, where they will play the winner of Bulls versus Raptors. And then we begin the big dance. Then we begin the first round of the playoffs coming up this weekend. Of course, the Bucks, Celtics, Nuggets, and Grizzlies have to wait to see who they're going to be matching up against in the first round of these playoffs. But you look at some of these other series, I would expect that the top half of the East to have a fairly easy go of it when it comes to getting to the next round. And the 76ers swept the season series against the Brooklyn Nets. And I know it was a different Nets roster all throughout this season, but the Sixers have the likely MVP frontrunner in Joel Embiid. You have James Harden, who's playing for his next contract. Of course, coached by Doc Rivers, there's been some whispers recently about his future with the 76ers. And this Nets team, I give them a lot of credit. They've been feisty. They've been fun to watch since this roster turnover back in February. Mikal Bridges has been great. Cam Johnson has been fun to watch. You've seen the re-addition of Spencer Dinwiddie giving this team something, as well as Dorian Finney-Smith. But it's going to be a tall task to ask for, trying to beat this Sixers team 4 times in a 7-game span. The most competitive series, the only series I expect to really be competitive in the Eastern Conference would be Cavaliers-Knicks, where, I mean, if you're a Knicks fan, this is a mix of your ultimate nightmare and your ultimate dream. When you consider you were so close to getting Donovan Mitchell. He had his bags packed. He was ready to come here. He was ready to be a New York Knick. And then Danny Ainge upped the ante. Danny Ainge pulled a fast one on the Knicks. Knicks thought he was bluffing, and he was able to get the package that he wanted from Cleveland in order to prevent you guys from getting the star you wanted. And now he could come back and knock the Knicks out of the playoffs. And I know Knicks fans don't like Julius Randle, or should I say they kind of have a in-between relationship when it comes to Julius Randle. But you want this guy healthy. You want this guy available for this team, because there's only so much that a guy like Emmanuel Quickley can give you off the bench, or Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin's been given plenty of chances, but has never grasped that opportunity to show that, hey, if Randle is out or Randle gets into foul trouble, that I can come in and still be a force, still show that we're not missing much offensively with me filling it in for him. Or how about RJ Barrett? Show some consistency for once. No, we talk all the time about his potential, about his athleticism, and how much talent he has. But it seems like you're always on a roller coaster ride with RJ Barrett. The only thing that you can hang your hat on that you know for sure is that Jalen Brunson is going to bring it. By now, there's no doubt in my mind that he's a lockdown surety for this Knicks team. But there's not many things that you can look at the Knicks and truly say that's a sure thing. That's a given going into this series. And this is probably the best possible matchup you could have gotten in this first round. Any of those other teams, Milwaukee, Boston, Philadelphia, would have smoked you. But even without Randle, you still have a puncher's chance against this Cavaliers team. Now out west, like I said, the Nuggets and Grizzlies are waiting for their opposition. And the Grizzlies, have a little bit of situation here when you consider no matter what, they're going to be going up against teams that have size to them. Whether it's going up against Anthony Davis or having to take on the T-Wolves and face the likes of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, who you would expect is going to be back from his suspension by then. Because the Grizzlies are missing a lot of size here. They've lost Steven Adams and Brandon Clark to the year for leg injuries. And Jaren Jackson, as good as he is, as much promise, as much potential, as much energy as he brings to the game, his biggest problem is he gets into so much foul trouble so quickly. And if he gets into foul trouble, you're essentially screwed there down low. Anthony Davis could have his way. Anthony Davis could just have a non-resistance field day against the Grizzlies if they don't have someone to, at least try to slow him down, at least try to calm him down. You're not going to completely stop Anthony Davis, but you got to have someone that is going to be at least a challenge for him down low. And the same applies if, for some odd, strange reason, you're facing the T-Wolves with Cat, with Gobert. So that's going to be definitely something to watch for when it comes to the Grizzlies, not just in this first round, but as the postseason goes on. And all the way around, you look at this Western Conference, it really does set up for kind of almost like a war scenario here, because there's no easy matchups. There's no true give-me's unless somehow the Thunder sneak through and are the 8th seed against the Nuggets, or even the Pelicans sneak through. There's no one where you expect them to truly get run over. I mean, everyone talked about how teams want to face the Kings in the first round. The Kings were the leading scoring team in the NBA this year. You look at these guys, Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, were unbelievable. Malik Monk was the lead scorer off the bench. You had so many of these young guys stepping up, and Mike Brown has done a phenomenal job. Going to be the runaway Coach of the Year winner for this season. And he's going up against a team now that he knows very well, a team that they're not going to be able to throw too many surprises at, and that he will be having his players fully ready for any situation. Now, you're never truly ready for Steph and Clay. And Clay, I think, has been a little bit too confident in the last 2 days, saying that he doesn't believe that there is a team that could beat them 4 times in a 7-game span. I mean, yeah, we'll see if you're still singing that tune if you got to play the Suns at some point throughout this postseason, who are now fully healthy, fully ready to go, going up against a Clippers team that are likely going to be without Paul George all series long. And you look at the Phoenix Suns. They're undefeated with Kevin Durant in the lineup. Now you're not going to be asking Devin Booker to be the lead dog heading into a postseason series. Chris Paul can just go about his business and not be relied on as that leading or secondary scorer. The only question I really have with the Suns is the motivation with DeAndre Ayton. We know that he is a bit of a weird personality, and you always have to somewhat motivate him to step his game up. But this postseason has a chance to be really fun, has a chance to be riveting. Every night, turning it on these games and seeing amazing shows all the way across the board, especially on the Western Conference side. The East, until we get to the second round, I think it's kind of almost a give me, almost a layup. But once we get there, we have a chance at a very fun, very exciting 2 months of basketball on our hands. And I can't wait for it all to get started tonight with these play-in matchups. A lot I want to get to through the next about 45 minutes or so remaining here. Give you some thoughts on the crap that the Dallas Mavericks pulled over the weekend. Mix in some thoughts on the Masters, some baseball, as well as the big free agent signing in the NFL over the weekend. So plenty to get to over the next, as I said, 45 minutes or so here. Glad you could join me this week. So as I tell you each and every single week at this time, sit back, relax, hell, put your feet up on the table if there's one in front of you, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
I'll be back.
One team that will not be taking part in the NBA postseason is the Dallas Mavericks, who have been very noisy over the last several weeks. Hell, very noisy ever since they made the trade for Kyrie Irving back at the trade deadline. Listen, I don't blame anything that has gone on over the last couple of months on Kyrie Irving. I don't blame him for any of the off-the-court or on-the-court nonsense with the Mavericks, because he's gone there and done his part. Unless I'm forgetting something, I think there was maybe one little rant he had on Instagram Live or something like that. But unless I missed something, he's been a relatively good soldier. You could say some of that is due to the fact that he's a pending free agent, and once that multi-year max contract, that in all likelihood he'll only be able to get from the Dallas Mavericks. But you've seen Luka at times lose his cool, show his immaturity, get suspended from a game due to too many technical fouls. You've seen that this team pretty much collapse around Kyrie and Luka Doncic. And it feels like at times, maybe offensively, they get in each other's way when you have two ball control guards, two guards that like to take control on the same team, on the court at the same time. I get what they were trying to do, but it never felt like it was the right mix as far as the talent is concerned between these two. I mean, KD and Kyrie, say what you wanted about them in Brooklyn, that pairing worked as far as a basketball standpoint. They just were too power hungry and wanted their ass kissed the entire way while they were with Brooklyn. But with Dallas, you had a better mix when you had Luka paired with Jalen Brunson than you did with Luka paired with Kyrie. But hey, you could have had Jalen Brunson. You could have re-signed him about 2 years ago, 4 years, $56 million at the time. But you waited. You let him have the chance to have an explosive walk year to the point where he got paid double the amount that you could have paid him at the time. And listen, you knew the deal. You knew that Leon Rose had a previous relationship with the Brunson family. You knew that Jalen Brunson's family badly wanted him to play in the New York area, wanted him to be a New York Knick. So you could have got this done a long time ago to prevent this from happening. You could have done more as far as trying to clear out cap space to give him the deal that he wanted, and that, quite frankly, it looks like he was paid as a discount coming to the Knicks with how well he played this year, with how important he was for that squad. So I don't want to hear Mark Cuban make any complaints, have any gripe with how that situation was handled. As soon as he made it to free agency, you had to know he was likely gone. But my big problem with the Dallas Mavericks is the crap that they pulled over the weekend. The crap that they pulled over the weekend, to me, is offensive as a sports fan. It's disrespectful to the Maverick fans. It's disrespectful to the people in Dallas who pay their hard-earned money to go to games and watch this team play all year long, just to watch them fall apart the final 2 months of the season, and then even still going into the final weekend of the year with a chance, small chance, but a chance to make the playoffs, they decided to tank. And if you weren't paying attention, you were under a rock. Here's what I mean. On Friday night, they were playing at home against the Chicago Bulls. And in that game, they sat Kyrie Irving, Tim Hardaway Jr., Josh Green, Maxi Kleber, and Christian Wood, some of whom were just sitting due to rest purposes, as well as only played Luka Doncic in the first quarter and would go on to lose to the Bulls, eliminate them from play-in contention. And you know what that did? That kept their first-round draft pick. Because their first-round draft pick, they could only keep this year if it was going to be in the top 10 of the NBA draft. Otherwise, it was the last remaining piece that was set to go to the New York Knicks from the Kristaps Porzingis trade a couple of years ago. And listen, I am no New York Knicks fan. I'm not going to sit here and cry for the Knicks fans. I would be of this same motivation, of this same annoyance, had that pick been going to anybody else, had it gone to anyone else in the league besides just the Knicks. Because the Mavericks essentially went into that game trying to lose, making sure that they still had a top 10 pick, making sure that they were still within realms of the NBA draft lottery. Even though the spot that they're in, their pick is currently, before the lottery starts, they have the 10th best odds of getting the first overall pick in this draft. And we all know about the shiny prize at the end of the tunnel. We all know about this kid, Victor Wembanyama, or however we're pronouncing his name. I'll get it right eventually. We all know how special this kid projects to be, even only at 18, 19 years old. We've never seen a phenom like this at that age, that height, with that ability to shoot and control of the basketball, as well as passing ability, all mixed into one coming into this league. And like I said, he's only 18, 19 years old. So you're thinking that he's still got room to grow into his body. They would rather that slight chance, that 1% chance at getting this kid, who there's no assurances that he could stay healthy for the long term, who there's no assurances that you would get that pick to have that chance at getting him, over making it into the NBA postseason, playing a play-in scenario. I mean, think about this. Think about the scenario that we were robbed of here. Because there was no sure thing that the Oklahoma City Thunder were going to hold on to the 10th spot and make it in the postseason. You have Luka and Kyrie. That's as good a combo, talent-wise, as you have in this league. You could have had those two pairing up together, take down the Pelicans, and then, heaven forbid, the Minnesota Timberwolves survive the Lakers tonight. We could have had a scenario on Friday night where it's Luka and Kyrie versus LeBron and AD, winner take all, loser goes home matchup to decide the 8th seed for the NBA postseason. If I'm Adam Silver, you have got to send a strong message at the Mavericks. I don't want to hear about how you're, investigating, and then, 5 days from now, you decide to throw at them some kind of hefty fine. No, that's not good enough. A fine, that's just a slap on the wrist. That is not really taking this situation, this scenario, seriously. What you have to do here is you have to take that pick away from the Mavericks. Whether it's you give the pick to the Knicks, or you decide, like what the NFL did last year when Stephen Ross got caught tampering with Tom Brady and Sean Payton, and the Miami Dolphins had to forfeit their first round draft pick for this year's draft. You've got to take that pick away from the Mavericks. They should not be allowed to have a lottery pick in this draft. And this is not the first time Mark Cuban has tanked. He admitted so back in 2018. Hell, go listen to Jason Kidd over the last couple of days. He even admitted that they tanked, that it was out of his control on who got to play on Friday night. It wasn't the medical team telling him that these players couldn't play. It was people from above, from the front office. And I'll be damned if you're going to try and tell me that, oh, Mark Cuban had no idea that was going on. Please, most people could not even name who the Dallas Mavericks general manager is. But we all know who the big guy on top is. We all know who the guy is that's cutting the checks. And that, to me, was disgusting to see. It was an embarrassment for the league. It was an embarrassment for the fans. If you're Adam Silver, you've got to really come down hard on them. You want this play-in to matter. You want this play-in to mean something. And if you don't set a precedent here, if you don't set a tone with a strong punishment, then teams are going to do this in the future. I mean, maybe there won't be a prospect as big as Victor Wembanyama coming into the league, but teams in the future who are on the edge will look to say, not worth it to make the play-in and potentially get bounced in the first round, because you're also costing yourself some money if you're the Mavericks. You make it to that first round against the Denver Nuggets, you're guaranteed 2 home playoff games. You robbed people who work an hourly job, that working at the arena is the only way they get paid, from making extra money, making postseason money. And it was just disgusting to see. It was against the spirit of competition. And I pray, Adam Silver, he's done a pretty good job as the NBA commissioner. I hope that he comes down extremely hard on the Mavericks and takes that first round pick away from them, because they should not be allowed to keep it.
I'll be back.
Nice try, Manny Machado. Nice try, Tim Anderson. You thought you were going to pull a fast one. You thought that you were going to outsmart the system when it comes to the pitch clock rules. But no, we caught you. We saw what you guys tried to do. It was cute. It was funny. I'm not laughing at the injury that Tim Anderson sustained over the weekend, but I am laughing at these two clowns' attempt to skirt the rules when it comes to the pitch clock rule, especially Manny Machado, because a week ago, or a little more than a week ago, the last time I'm sitting here doing the podcast, as I'm recording this, the Padres were playing their home opener, I believe. They had a Monday afternoon game against the Diamondbacks, and Manny Machado got called out on a strike 3 for not standing in the batter's box, decided to argue with umpire Ron Culpa, and got ejected from the game. Now, the full scenario here was the clock was coming down, and as we know, the batter has to be standing in the box, alert to the pitcher, with 8 seconds, or there's an automatic strike called against them. Machado's standing there, still adjusting his gloves. It's trickling down to 8 seconds. And at the 8-second mark, he's still standing out of the box slightly and decides to put his hand up to use his one timeout. Well, he can't do that. You have to be standing in the box, alert to the pitcher, and then you can be calling your timeouts. You can't be standing outside the box and wait for the final second and decide to call the timeout. He thought he was going to kind of skirt the rules and go around it, but you can argue all day about umpires showing too much power, referees making the game too much about it themselves. Ron Culpa followed the rules to the letter of the law. And the same applies last Wednesday when Tim Anderson was ejected in the White Sox game against the Giants. He started arguing with the umpire, saying that the pitcher quick pitched him. But hey, he was in the box. He was alert to the pitcher. And the pitcher continued through his motion. He didn't do anything that I thought was truly devious, truly against the spirit of the rule. It wasn't like he started his windup just as Tim Anderson was getting set. No, he deviated things. You see Nestor Cortez do that all the time, and he never gets called for it. So I have no problem with any of this. We knew that there were going to be guys that tried to work some kind of angle, that tried to change up the rules here a little bit, and they got caught. They got called out on it. And unfortunately for them, now that they got to watch the rest of the game like the rest of us on television somewhere. It's a little bit early, but I want to give credit to the Tampa Bay Rays, who have been off to a fiery start to this season. 10-0 to start the year. First team to do so since the 87 Brewers. Now, we still got a long way to go. 152 games to be played. And even though they are in my division and I can't stand watching them, I can't stand anything about that organization and how cheap they are, the fact that they're so successful but never spend money to keep talent and are able to rework their roster with all of this analytics that they use, while their owner just continually shoves a revenue sharing right down his pocket. I do have to give credit when credit is deserved. And you look at it, they've been outslugging their opponents by a plus 21 home run edge. They're outscoring their opponents by a run differential of plus 58. Now, you do have to take into account the weak competition that they've had. They've been playing the likes of the Tigers, Nationals, and A's, and been slaughtering those teams. Yesterday, ran into a bit of a pitcher's duel against the Red Sox, and they will have some tougher competition coming up. And you look at this week, they have Chris Sale. They're going to be facing Barrios and Manoah from the Blue Jays over the weekend. So there's going to be some tougher pitching that they have to face, but their pitching has helped carry the way here. You look at Jeffrey Springs was kind of just a guy. They get him, and they turn him into a Cy Young contender through his first couple of starts. He hasn't given up a run yet this year. Same with Drew Rasmussen. So they're doing things somewhat of the right way down there. Now, I'd love to see it get calmed down, especially with the fact that they can't do some of the things that they did to change up baseball as much anymore, whether it be with the shifts or with the fact that not many people are using the opener very much anymore. But I figured that I'd be fair, I'd be a nice guy here, and give my division rival a little bit of credit. Now, both of our local teams, the Mets and the Yankees, are off to okay starts to their seasons. And there's definitely room for improvement on both of these teams, especially when you look at the Mets. Their biggest problem is the offense so far. And I think that you had to have seen this coming when you look at, they didn't make any real offensive upgrades during the offseason. They tried to go get Carlos Correa, but that fell apart. So they didn't get that real big bat to add to this lineup. And it kind of feels right now with the way that they're putting this roster together that they are almost greasing the skids and preparing for when Shohei Ohtani is a free agent, with how they're handling the DH spot, with how they haven't made any true upgrades in this lineup and are hopeful that any upgrades they do make are from within the system. And I expect some of these guys to pick up their batting averages. And as of last night, the highest batting average on this team was at 250. And I wouldn't expect all year long the likes of a Jeff McNeil to bat 250 or Brandon Nimmo to bat 192, albeit he is getting on base at a 420 clip. But the two guys that you have to pay attention to with this team are Eduardo Escobar and Daniel Vogelbach. Escobar, who he's going to get at least the first month here, and has gotten a bit of a reprieve when you consider that the guy that should be playing third base for the Mets is Brett Baty, but he got a thumb injury last week, and even though he's looking like he's going to be back this week, you still want to see him get back in a groove down in AAA and get some work in before you talk about making a change like that. Because once you make that change, you're not going back. You're not saying, oh, Beatty, you're going to go ride the bench. You're going to go back to the minor leagues. We're going to go to Escobar. Once you make that change, it's Brett Baty's job. He's the guy from that point forward. The one I really don't understand, though, is Daniel Vogelbach. And it's not just with this front office, why they felt the need to spend, $1.5 million to bring this guy back. But why is there this love affair? Why is there this jumping for joy from Met fans for this guy? What has this guy ever done? What has this guy ever done in the big leagues? He's never had more than 21, 22 home runs in a given season. He provides you no versatility because he's, to be fair, a rather large human being and cannot play defense. And it's essentially, you put him out there at first base, you might as well take this chair and put it out there at first base. That's the mobility you have out there. It seems like every at bat that he has, more so than trying to reach Buck Showalter's desired goal of him hitting a 500-plus foot home run, he's out there trying to walk. And he brings no versatility. When he gets on base, he clogs up the base paths because he's going only base to base. It's not like you can go first to third with this guy. And this isn't rec softball. You can't pinch run from every at-bat. I really don't get why he's on this team, and B, why Met fans love him so much. Are they looking at him as their second coming of Bartolo Colon? Newsflash, at least Bartolo Colon was a good, competent pitcher for the Mets. What does Daniel Vogelbach bring to this team? Going into last night, he has 1 RBI on the season in 6 games. And he was okay at best for this team last year. He wasn't something to write home about. He wasn't something special. And to add on to the trouble of it, Buck's always batting him right in the middle of the order. This is what I'm talking about here, people. Why I've always been so heavily critical of Buck Showalter. Why I do not think he's that good of a manager. Because he has these guys he falls in love with. He's too fixated on proving that he's right about. Whether it be Daniel Vogelbach, or whether it be the fact that he loves the leadership Eduardo Escobar brings into the lineup, or how much he puts Luis Guillorme into the lineup. I tried to warn you, Met fans, that at some point, Buck Showalter, even though he will have you competitive in the regular season, he will be your ultimate downfall. If your goal is to just be a fun, cute story in the postseason, in the regular season, then fine. But if your goal is to win a World Series, win a championship, as it should be for all 30 teams in this sport, then Buck Showalter is not your guy. And as for the Yankees, last night's loss to the Cleveland Guardians, it was annoying when you consider they got the first 4 guys on. You get the big double by Stanton. And then as soon as Willie Calhoun lined out with runners on second and third with nobody out in the first, the offense died. The only real chance they had after that was the leadoff triple by Gleyber Torres in the 8th inning. And from there you saw a pop-up by Judge, strikeout by Rizzo, and a strikeout by Stanton. They had no answers for the Cleveland pitching staff after that. They let Shane Bieber off the hook and had no chance against the Guardians bullpen. But the real thing I want to address here is there seems to be some doubt creeping in from certain Yankee fans on social media, some doubt about one player, and that's Anthony Volpe. Anthony Volpe, through his first 10 games here, has gotten off to a slow start. He's off to a 4 for 30 start. He only has one extra base hit. He does have 3 stolen bases, 5 walks, but has struck out a bunch. And you already have Yankee fans wanting to give him a mental health day. You already have some fans saying, oh, where's Oswald Peraza? And I can tell you, Oswald Peraza had some hamstring tightness down the minor leagues, so he hasn't played much in the last week. It is way too soon for anyone to be giving up or having doubt creep in about going with Volpe to start the year. Remember, in spring training, that was all people wanted. People wanted this kid to be the starting shortstop come opening day. But did you really think that it was going to be a smooth, easy ride? Did you really think that he was going to, from day one, be the second coming of Derek Jeter? I want to bring up something to all of you. Last April, listen to this stat line. 205 batting average, 284 on-base percentage, 360 slugging. Four doubles, no home runs, 6 walks, and 30 strikeouts in 80 plate appearances. You know what that stat line is? That was the month of April for Mariners center fielder Julio Rodriguez. Julio Rodriguez, who would do nothing but go on to win the Rookie of the Year last year and help lead the Mariners to ending their 21-year playoff drought. The Mariners didn't give up on their young rookie stud, and for the Yankees, it's too early for them to give up on their rookie stud. Nobody was doing this with Judge when he got off to a slow start in his big league career in 2016. We all wanted him to replace Aaron Hicks at the start of the next year, and they rightfully did so. Hell, we all want to pack Aaron Hicks's bags right now because seemingly there's no purpose for him on this team, especially when you're seeing over the weekend Aaron Boone pinch hitting with IKF for a lefty rather than using Aaron Hicks. Makes you wonder why he's even on the team. But for Volpe, you got to let him go through this. You've got to let him battle his way out of it. That's the way he's done it all throughout his minor league career. Got off the slow starts, but all of a sudden, when it clicked in, he took off. And this hasn't affected his defense. For as much talk as there was about Anthony Volpe's defense in spring training, he's fine. He's looked great. He's played very good shortstop for this team. Have had no complaints about his defense, whether it be fielding the baseball, turning a double play, throws to first. Everything has looked pretty good for this kid so far defensively. I know it's a slow start. I know you want everyone to get off to a hot start in the big league season. But it's way too soon for anyone to be saying that there should be some kind of move taking place with Volpe. We're only 10 games in to his big league career.
I'll be back.
Not the biggest golf fan in the world, but must congratulate Jon Rahm on winning his second major of his career on Sunday by winning the Masters. His first major was back in 2021 when he won the U.S. Open. And he had to put up a fight there at the end. Remember, he was not in the lead going into Sunday, and his biggest challengers, as it would turn out, were from the LIV Tour, were LIV golfers, with Phil Mickelson as well as Brooks Koepka, who actually had the lead going into Sunday. And I wonder what the reaction would have been if one of these LIV golfers would have won, because it's not like those guys are Joe Schmoes. We may disagree with their decision, may disagree with their choice to be part of this somewhat questionable golf league, who only plays 3 rounds compared to the 4 rounds played in the PGA Tour. But those guys are all names. Those guys are all brand names. Especially, Phil has a legacy that he has to look back on. He's a legendary golfer in this game. Would we have started to show LIV Golf some respect if one of them came along and won the Masters? I think the key for this is LIV and the PGA need to work something out that you're getting these guys together more than 4 times a year. Only having them meeting up, matching up with each other at the 4 majors for the PGA Tour is not going to really entice the excitement for the purist golf fan. Not going to entice the excitement as far as seeing these guys go up against each other. Not going to fill the thirst of it. You want to see these guys match up more mano-a-mano. Really see the best in the world compete against each other. And I know we act like those are the only tournaments that matter, but only 4 times a year does not truly fill any fan of any sports craving as far as watching the overall best at their profession match up to see who is the top dog. Now, the one sad thing that comes for this weekend, and even as a non-golf fan, I'm sad watching this, because no one wants to see this end. But this is the harsh reality that came out of this weekend. It's over for Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods needs to retire. Tiger Woods needs to move on for his own sake, not just physically, mentally, but for his legacy, because it's becoming sad at this point. He's become a parody of himself. I know the Tiger fans don't want to hear it, don't want to talk about it, think that, oh, that's disrespect to his greatness. No, if anything, I'm showing his legend, his legacy greatness, because watching him walk around out there, or should I say hobble around out there, is not doing him any good. It's not doing anybody that loves that sport, loves what he brought to that sport. It's not doing anyone any favors. You're now just looking at a broken old shell of what he used to be, and you're saying a prayer hoping that maybe some of that old thunder, maybe some of that old excitement that we used to get out of Tiger Woods will come back. People, he won the Masters a couple of years ago, and that was remarkable. But there are only so many times that you can come back from what he's been through, albeit self-inflicted. But he's been through way too much physically, mentally, emotionally, to ever be the Tiger Woods that we remember again. More so of the Tiger interest is on what people want him to be, rather than what they realize he really is now. They won't be truthful to themselves, but let's be fair. He's not fun to watch anymore. And quite frankly, it's sad to see. Now, what was also sad to see over the weekend, if you're a New York Jet fan, is the fact that we clearly got played. We clearly got played by a guy who for the last month, it feels like was lying to the public, in that being Odell Beckham Jr. We kept seeing reports over the last month on what Odell Beckham wanted as far as his contract is concerned. Adam Schefter, Ian Rappaport, they kept reporting that he wants $20 million or he wants $15 million. And Odell is laughing at them on social media saying, where is this coming from? I never said that. I just want to get paid more than $4 million. Well, Sunday came around and he got a big offer from the Baltimore Ravens and took it. He got 1 year, $15 million guaranteed with the chance to earn up to $18 million. A deal that the New York Jets were never going to match. And it feels like never truly got a chance to match after you saw weeks of photos where publicly you're seeing Robert Saleh hanging out with Odell Beckham. They're going to events together. They're hanging out at the NFL meetings together. All this time, all this thought was that Odell Beckham was waiting for the Aaron Rodgers trade to be made. But in reality, we got played so that this guy could get paid. And I give him credit. I give anybody credit in sports. I will never begrudge someone from taking the most money they can, especially when you consider this guy is now going to be coming off of his second ACL surgery and hasn't played in over a year. So, bravo, Odell Beckham Jr. Now, let's just hope the Jets are not getting played for a second time when it comes to this Aaron Rodgers situation, because Joe Douglas can go to whatever WFAN Fan Fest or any other radio station's Fan Fest that he wants, talking with the crowd saying, he's going to be here. Until Aaron Rodgers is officially traded to the New York Jets and seen in Jets green, no one's really going to believe it. But another angle with this Odell scenario that I want to discuss here, and that ties back to the Baltimore Ravens. Because the Baltimore Ravens, for an organization that has always been so buttoned up, been so respected over the 20 plus years that they have been in existence. Even when they weren't a Super Bowl contender, they've always mattered. They were never a just bottom feeder. They've always been a very respectable franchise. They've made a lot of noise this year so far, whether it be with the Lamar Jackson contract negotiations or now with signing Odell Beckham Jr. to a deal that I don't think anyone was going to match. You're paying $18 million to a wide receiver that hasn't played in over a year. I know how great Odell was, but he's coming off of his second ACL surgery. That, to me, is a tad bit concerning. And then what they did about 2 months ago were you probably had every general manager in this sport throwing up, vomiting, when they gave a 5-year, $100 million contract to middle linebacker Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith, great player, one of the top linebackers in this sport. But $20 million a year to a middle linebacker, a guy who's not a pass rusher, a guy who, yes, he's one of the top tackling linebackers in this sport, but his success more relies on in-game situation than scheme. You gave him $20 million a year. So let's get this straight. You would give him a middle linebacker, a position that has never been heavily valued in this sport, $20 million a year, potentially destroying the linebacker market. You gave Odell Beckham Jr. $18 million on a one-year deal when he didn't play last year. But we're still quibbling over how much guaranteed money to give Lamar Jackson when he's gotten you guys to the playoffs multiple times, won an MVP with you, won playoff games, never gotten in any trouble off the field, unlike the likes of Deshaun Watson. But we're not giving this man his money? Baltimore, what the hell is going on there? I don't want to hear any of this nonsense that you think about drafting a quarterback in the first round of the NFL draft. You have a proven quarterback. You have an elite quarterback. And you're willing to throw all of that away? Why? It continues to make no sense to me how the Ravens are handling the Lamar Jackson negotiations. Any other quarterback in this sport would have gotten their money by now. And he's played this situation the best way possible. He's just playing the waiting game. And that's something that he should continue to do. Because quite frankly, the Ravens, they will suffer without him. They will have that come to Jesus moment where they realize that they're better off with him than any quarterback they could potentially select in this draft or anyone that they could trade for. This is the best talent-wise quarterback that they have ever had since they moved here from Cleveland. And they're willing to throw it all away. It still, to this day, makes no sense to me. Someone has got to explain to me how you can pay a middle linebacker $20 million per year, Odell Beckham $18 million a year, but you're not willing to pony up for the most important position in all of professional sports when you have a 26-year-old, soon to be 27-year-old quarterback who's in the prime of his career, an elite talent, and an even better person. And they continue to let him dangle out there, waiting for his contract extension. Makes no sense whatsoever. And that, my friends, was Keeping It Sports with M3 for Tuesday, April 11th, 2023. Everyone, please have a great night. Have a very fun, safe, happy, healthy week. And I'll talk to you guys again next Monday. Until then, peace.
We have to go. Good night, everybody.
I have had enough of you!
Thank you for all the fun. Thank you. Hey, shut up, will ya?
I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to smell you. Now leave.
I'll be back.